have another kinesiology presenter, Kylee Williams, and her concentration is clinical, and she's going to be talking about mastering nutrition in ultramarathon training and racing. Kylee.
Hi everyone, as introduced, my name is Kylee Williams. If you'll give me just a second, I've got to figure out how to get my speaker notes on here. Apparently it doesn't pop up, so I apologize.
Maybe on that present there's a drop down. Present, you go back. See what, there's a drop down there. I don't know how.
No, that's
Not right off the top of my head.
You may need dual screen.
Notes is down here though. Can you bring
yeah,
this up here?
they pop up, but it won't do any of the presentation that way.
Yeah, I mean you could do it. You could just show this and have this.
Okay. If it's okay with everyone else, I'm just going to present it like this. There won't be any of the slide animations, if that's cool. All right, perfect. Okay, so I am, let's try and do it a little bit bigger. There we go. Okay, so I'm presenting the International Society of Sports Nutrition's position stand on the nutritional considerations for single-stage ultramarathon runner. Sorry y'all, I'm a little nervous, please forgive me. Considerations for single-stage ultramarathon training and racing by Nicholas D. Tiller and Justin D. Roberts. They're both extremely accomplished ultramarathon runners themselves. They are qualified in areas of nutrition. So they have a huge understanding of the physical challenges that this sport requires, and they can provide recommendations that only ultramarathon runners can provide. I have an ultramarathon runner in my life. My fiance has done several long distance ultramarathon type events. So what is an ultramarathon? Most people have never heard about it. But for today, I want you to picture yourself as an ultramarathon runner. You're going to be running 100 miles nonstop through all kinds of different terrain. So scorching deserts, freezing mountains, jungles, even street pavement in big cities like San Francisco. Here is one of the courses for the Western States Endurance Run. It's 100 miles. It's one of the longer ones. So what fuels these people to do this? How do they stay moving during this time? That's what we're going to cover today. So we're going to go over the nutrition strategies, which are the secret weapons that make finishers from do not finishers. So we're going to kind of go through the personalized carb intake, protein, and recovery, hydration strategy, all of that puts these athletes to victory. So what is an International Society of Sports Nutrition position stand? So this is a guideline. They're here to, it's not a restriction on what you should do, but it's more of a rubric of what they suggest you do. So experts in sports nutrition summarize the latest science on specific topics. They provide practical recommendations for coaches, professionals, and athletes, and it's evidence-based guide for optimal sports nutrition. So basically a place where you can find all of the good sports nutrition info. It's just a good solid place. Alright, so the methodology for the research of this position stand was an extensive literature search, going through several different online databases. There was a systematic inclusion, so it included all published studies regardless of methodological limitations. That's because ultramarathon is such a small group of people, and a lot of times due to equipment difficulties, you can't get super heavy, super difficult, hard to carry equipment, because that's going to slow you down, and that's going to, in these remote areas, not going to work. There's not cell service or internet service for miles on most of these trips. So the transparency and grading, the authors acknowledge the limitations of the individual studies and used a standardized system to grade the evidence strength for clear interpretation. Here in this graphic, it just kind of goes through the different evidence categories. So case reports, it's our last, just because those can sometimes be skewed due to personal. When you're retelling events, sometimes you get things wrong. I know I do. So then we have a non-randomized trial, so observation studies and other things. The problem with these is that sometimes they're uncontrolled. Normally they're uncontrolled. And then non-randomized, so there's not a super diverse group of people to go over. We went through systematic reviews and the meta-analysis, position stands, and randomized controlled trials. These two are top of the line for where we're going to gather that information, or where the authors gather that information. Alright, so now we're going to lay the groundwork for success. So this is going to be your pre-race. So anything that comes during training, anything that builds you a good foundation to run an ultramarathon. I'm so sorry. This is a little difficult, y'all. I do apologize if you can't see anything. I can happily go back at the end if y'all do. So first we're going to start with meeting your energy requirements. So your body is an engine. We got to keep it running. It's got to have fuel, and ultramarathons demand super, super big energy expenditure. Which is really important for you to meet. So you'll have optimal recovery and training adaptations throughout your, building up to your ultramarathon. So then we go to a periodized approach. So it's an evolving plan. Your nutritional needs shift throughout the whole training cycle, and that ensures that your body receives the right fuel at the right time for maximum gains, meaning that you're going to change your nutrition throughout your training cycle, which we'll cover in just a little bit. So a whole food focus means that processed foods give you quick energy, but they don't have any nutritional, oomph to them. When you prioritize whole foods instead of processed, you're giving your body those strong blocks to build on. It's like a rock foundation instead of sand. Next, the food first mindset is supplementing is great, but food is always your primary source of nutrition. This ensures a wider range of micronutrients and fiber, crucial for overall health and performance. So during runs, a lot of people, and during training, they use like supplemental gels. So we call them supplement nutrition. They'll do gels, drinks, bars, anything like that to kind of give them an energy boost while running. And that's great. Like, you need those during this. That's a huge part of it. But that can't be all that you're doing. You have to have a good, solid food base. Otherwise, you're going to be a DNF. Do not finish. So matching fat utilization, your body stores fat. And so when you can tap into the fat stores instead of just running on the carbs, which turn into sugar for energy, it's going to help delay fatigue and help enhance like fat burning, which you want to be as skinny as you can be to run these long things, because you don't want to be carrying lots of weight during a 100-mile run. It's like carrying a backpack full of 3 people instead of just yourself. So remember, this is a marathon, not a sprint. So building a nutritional strategy progressively and sustainably is the most important factor. There you go. Sorry. Okay, so fueling for performance. So this is where we really get into like what the food needs to be while you're training, as you're going into your, into the marathon. Like, we're building up to it. We're almost there. So our carbohydrates are going to be the primary energy source during ultramarathons. And you need to aim for 60% of daily calories from moderate to high carb intake. And that's going to replenish your glycogen stores and combat fatigue. So, like I said, those are going to be your primary fuel. High carb options like fruit, vegetables, and sports nutrition, like those gels that we were talking about a minute ago, or drinks, are going to be super valuable during that, for that part. So you're gonna need to find a sweet spot of different carb sources during training, because when you're running ultramarathons, your guts get destroyed. Your digestive tract can become super, super intolerable to anything. It's a big difficulty for ultramarathon runners. It's one of the biggest points that they talked about in this study about the difficulties that they face for nutrition. So moving on from carbs, in our sweet spot, we gotta get to our low carb session. So we're gonna do high carb and low carb. Just like that periodized section that we talked about a minute ago, it's kind of like a cycle. You're gonna go through cycles on this 100-mile journey where you want a snack, but your body needs to kind of burn that fat instead of going for the next gel, because you're gonna run out. There's not a whole lot of, places to stop and get fast food when you're on a 100-mile mountain journey. So when you're incorporating those low carb training sessions, you're making your body do that fat adaptation. So moving on to like protein, it's essential for muscle repair and recovery. They suggest that you aim for 1.6 to 2.5 grams or kilograms per day. Sorry, kilograms per day. I can't see from here. Adjusting based on training intensity and calorie needs. Don't underestimate how important the protein is. The leucine-rich foods like dairy and beans build muscle, which is what you need to carry yourself through this 100-mile journey that we're on. And please remember that this is a starting point. The entire point of this is that it's got to be personalized. Each person, as they train, learns what works best for them and what works best to carry them through their race. Okay, so for race day, this is our big day. We've done all this prep, we've done all this building, and now we're here. So our calorie goals for the day are 150 to 40 kcals per hour with 30 to 50 grams of carbs, 5 to 10 grams of protein from very palatable foods, and then whatever your body can handle and your gut can tolerate, you're free to eat, which is something that you really have to practice during your training. Otherwise, you will be running to the bathroom instead of running the race. Make sure that hydration is one of your key things. So they suggest that you aim for 450 to 750 milliliters per hour. Weather and sweat rates really change that. I'm so sorry, I just lost my train of thought. Give me just a second. Let me get back there. Humid conditions prevent electrolytes may be needed in hot humid conditions to prevent hyponatremia, which is where your body gets overly hydrated. You get sick. It's water intoxication. So a lot of these races are done in a jungle, so it's super hot, super sweaty, and you're burning lots and lots of sodium, lots of salt. Like we've said before several times, gut training is super, super important. Progressive gut training or low food map diets can help manage the distress during races, but you really have to figure out what works for you. This is not a set thing, it's a personalized outline of this. So the use of caffeine in later stages can boost performance and combat fatigue, especially when sleep deprivation becomes a factor. So if you're running for 100 miles, you're going to get tired. It's just a fact. Caffeine can often give you just that little boost to push you to the edge, to the finish line. And they talked about ketogenic diets or ketone esters. They're gaining interest, but there's not a whole lot of research in that, especially for ultramarathons. So it needs more research before you go, doing that, is what they suggest. So here is kind of like an overlying timeline approach to what we've talked about. So we kind of went through the stages before in the other sections prior. but this is kind of just giving you a complete, thing of what pre-race, so that's gonna be just a few days before. Your carbs are gonna increase, your protein is gonna increase, you're gonna stay really hydrated, you're gonna include electrolytes and fiber. During the race is what we're gonna come to after race day. So that morning, you're gonna wanna have a light breakfast, carb and proteins, small digestible snack full of carbs and electrolytes, and hydrate constantly. You wake up super, super early for these races. Say your race starts at 8, you're gonna get there at 4. You wanna make sure that all of your equipment, all the things that you're taking is really well done. During your race, we discussed all of these things prior, and then post-race, recovery drink, hydrate, hydrate, hydrate. Eat a balanced meal, something not super heavy, because you will get sick if you do. So the key points here are during training, meeting your individual calorie needs, training your fat system, so low carb sessions or moderate calorie intake during that periodized section of training, but remember that carbs are still super important. Protein matters. Make sure that you're getting enough protein, especially during your training, to help build that muscle to carry you long term. During your racing, you're going to want to fuel consistently, so lots of those gels, lots of little snacks to help you keep going. You're going to want to do your fluids with extra electrolytes, especially in hot places. Training your gut is super, super important during training, but after training, like during the race. So all of that work that you put in before really shows up. And then here we talk about keto and ketones, the research needed, and caffeine strategically, use it in later races to combat sleep deprivation. Is there any questions? Yes, sir. Thank
Let me save questions, you guys, just from the judges, because we only have time for one.
I have a question.
you. Okay, absolutely.
For one instance, with the supplementation, wouldn't the logical choice be like creatine, pre-workout, protein shakes, and bars?
So not for ultra marathon running. It's important to have protein, but too much protein is gonna give you issues with your kidneys. They make runner's gels. That's probably your best supplementation during this. I'm so sorry about going over time. I apologize.
But let's thank our speakers.